This is the story of our expedition to a remote rainforest in Madagascar. A rainforest which was unknown to science and protected over the centuries by a quirk of geography and a lot of luck. It's a tale of bad roads, treacherous hikes, and cyclone-force winds.
Oh, all the tents have collapsed.
And it was all done in the pursuit of knowing what secret biodiversity and new species are sheltered within the forest of Ivory-Boro. However, it's also a story about pooping, and how lives can be saved for literal pocket change. To tell you all about that, here's me from the past, dealing with a bout of gastrointestinal distress about a week before the expedition was supposed to start.
So here's the sit rep. I'm currently sick as a fucking dog, and I'm supposed to go on expedition to Ivory-Boro tomorrow. I'm currently at the Centro Valbio research station, which is like 165 kilometers or 100 miles due north of where we're heading, but it's still like a 2-day journey. That includes 8 hours on roads that range from like okay to pretty awful, 4 hours, 4x4 on like dirt paths with a bunch of river crossings, and then a hike up a mountain that some people have said takes 20 minutes and others have said takes 4 hours. So that kind of range is a bit concerning. So I really want to see it, but I also don't want to like shit my pants in front of my colleagues. So I keep going back and forth about whether it's worth it. So there's some bug that's been going around the research station. About 4 or 5 other people have been hit, mostly puking. Maybe because I've spent more time in poor countries. I felt a little queasy, but then I haven't really wanted to stray too far away from the bathroom, if you catch my drift. I have to say, it's luxurious to have flush toilets just a little walk away. So I've been eating a lot of plain foods like beans and rice and drinking lots of water, obviously. But I've also been relying on the one thing I never leave home without, the one thing I always have with me. I've been meaning to make a video about it, so I figure this is a good excuse. This magical, crucial thing, the one thing that saved my life multiple times, is this. A balanced mix of electrolytes and glucose, essentially sugar and salt, that you mix with clean water, and it helps you avoid dehydration, which is the most dangerous aspect of diarrhea. So I'm an adult, and a fairly robust one at that. I'm not particularly easy to kill, but what I'm suffering from now, gastroenteritis, is actually one of the top killers of children under 5, up there with malaria and lower respiratory tract infections. I think this is something that people in rich countries like the United States don't really realize, that worldwide, 7.6 million kids under 5 still die of diarrhea each year. The development of this stuff, oral rehydration therapy, is probably the single biggest advance in medicine in the last century. The central idea is that sodium and glucose transport are linked in the small intestine. They're coupled. So by feeding kids a mixture of glucose and electrolytes, you can get them to absorb some water, even if they're losing a lot through diarrhea. And the thing is, it's super effective. And the thing is, it's like a cloud of lemon lime. It's to the point where a kid's risk of dying of diarrhea drops by like 90% if they're given oral rehydration therapy.
Oral rehydration therapy, drinking that magical mix of sugar and salt, cuts mortality by 90%. It worked for me too. I survived my bout of gastroenteritis like I had so many times in my career as a field biologist. At this point, I decided to delay the expedition start by a few days, and then risk it, since I knew I could keep hydrated thanks to the magic of oral rehydration therapy. We set out the next morning with camping supplies and provisions, and enough normal people around that I didn't want to talk into the camera, so enjoy this voiceover. The drive to the town of Ihusi was long but fine, though we were delayed after 2 trucks crashed in front of us. We stayed at a hotel I've been to a few times. Like most places in Madagascar, I didn't trust the water, but I did appreciate having a flush toilet, and one with a seat to boot. 9 out of 10 people in Madagascar don't have access to a decent toilet, so this always feels like a luxury. The road got worse as we went along into the more arid south, and it felt more like the Serengeti or other African savanna. It didn't seem possible that we'd soon be at a lush rainforest. After some proper off-road driving and a few fun river crossings, however, we arrived. We hired porters for the gear and started the trek up the mountain. Soon we could see the forest perched above us.
It really is wild. I never would have thought there'd be a forest here.
We set up our tents on the edge, near where the full team had already set up an impressive camp a bit further into the forest. We were drinking stream water, but we boiled it or filtered it. Almost half of the population of Madagascar doesn't have clean water, and after battling a stomach bug, it's not something you take for granted. But here's this camp in the forest, just in this sea of grass. Everywhere else the forest is burned, but somehow the Ivori forest has not.
Hypothetically, somewhere back there is the camp, but I can't see it. The mask is for the grass pollen, but it's not great for the rain, so I'm gonna go home, which is right down there. There's camp. Heading back there.
I headed back to camp and made use of the amenities.
So here's the drop toilet we've been using. Much nicer than a lot of places I've stayed, and beautiful views, although it's a little cloudy right now. So yeah, glamping.
And then I had a peaceful night. At least until midnight, when we got hit with the most intense wind I've ever camped in. Half the tents collapsed in the night, and most people didn't get more than a few hours of sleep. In the morning, the leaders of the expedition made the call to evacuate to the nearby conservation center at the foot of the mountain. Unfortunately, it ended up being a rough walk down. But it was sunny at the bottom.
Such a salama. Oh, Jesus. Oh, I survived. Oh, brutal.
I slept like a rock, even though we were on the concrete floor, and then we headed back to the original research station the next day.
I'm heading from the research station down to the town of Abatalahi because they have a nice gazebo that I figured I could vlog at without people thinking me utterly insane. So, a rare moment of privacy at the field station. So I'm back near the original research station at this nice little gazebo overlooking the rapids and the national park. My stomach is essentially back to good, all thanks to a little satchel of salt and sugar. And the thing is, it's super cheap. I mean, I overpaid for mine, but essentially that's because I bought mine from Whole Foods in Manhattan in a mad dash to make my flight. But here in Madagascar, they only cost like 50 cents each. The fact that this is often all that's needed to save a kid's life means that it's utterly heartbreaking that kids still die of what, like to me, was essentially just an inconvenience. Oral rehydration therapy has saved a ton of lives. It was first proven effective during the 1971 Bangladeshi War of Independence, when a cholera outbreak occurred among the refugees that were fleeing the war. We've continued to make great progress. Since the 1990s, deaths of kids under 5 due to diarrhea have dropped by 2/3. But still, less than half of the kids that could benefit from this treatment managed to get it, meaning many more lives could be saved by this simple mix. For instance, in the region where that new park is located, less than 1/3 of kids with diarrhea under 5 are treated with oral rehydration therapy. Okay, I have to leave, start the long journey back to New York City. So thank you for watching this, turned out to be a circuitous video. If you want to learn about malaria, another unfortunate killer of kids, and how it shaped the genomes of the people that live here in Madagascar, please check out my last video. Major thanks to the staff at the Centre Valbio Research Station and the new Iboro protected area, and for all my colleagues on the expedition. Oh, I just walked through puke. That's a fitting end to this video. Jesus. So I had this embarrassing hobby, I think I've told you about it, where I make educational videos and I put them online and no one watches them.